Thank you again for joining me on the Sutherland Report, and I am delighted to bring on my previous guest of a few weeks ago, which is Mark Butcher, who is the Reform candidate for Blackpool South. And I am bringing him on because I want to catch up with how things are, how it's going, and he has a number of things to share, and we'll have a brilliant conversation. So thank you for joining me, Mark. Hello, sir. How are you?
Well, it's a pleasure. Well, thanks for having me back on.
Well, thanks. Thank you for agreeing to be back on and
I'm very
being here.
well.
Good, good. So, I think since the last time we had a conversation a few weeks ago, you have had quite a busy time. So, I'm just wondering if you could give me some of the highlights of that, and then we will narrow down to the big issue.
We have. It's been quite an incredible couple of weeks, to be honest with you. I've not stopped.
Mm,
And obviously we've been doing our best to get the message out there
mm, mm,
that Reform are a serious party and that we have got serious policies, common sense
mm,
policies. And people have been very interested as well. You know, some of the hustings have been interesting. I've been getting around the local pubs and doing Q&As in the local pubs. I'm doing one tomorrow night in the local pub called the Boar's Head. And
right.
so it's about getting out there, talking to people, and just really reassuring people that by voting for Mark Butcher on the 2nd of May, you're not going to be voting for the status quo. You're not going to be voting for the same old rubbish. You know, there's something new. There's some great new ideas, and more than just ideas, some fantastic opportunities that are that are coming on the horizon for Blackpool.
Brilliant, Mark. Well, since we last met, and you raised a very, your big, fantastic idea, which is to bring a film studio infrastructure to
Yeah.
Blackpool South, and all the wonderful ramifications of that. And you and I discussed that. You discussed the cultural war, which I'd like to come back to in a few minutes. But at the Blackpool Gazette, they actually reported on your idea, and then
Yeah.
they held a hustings, and sadly, it seems as though there might have been a riot going on, and the police were called in the headlines, and that they also said that yes, you've got this idea to bring a film studio, but you didn't explain how you would finance that. Um,
Well, they never gave
should
me
we go?
chance. They
Right.
first of all, they never really gave me chance to explain how I plan to finance the whole idea, the project. But secondly, they also misquoted me in the Gazette as well. I think the day or two after, there was two different, the Lead and the Gazette both taking the hustings, and it was quite startling to see that the two reports, it was the exact same wording in both different reports, which that to me isn't journalism. You'd expect both papers to be able to report on the event in totally different ways, but they used exactly the same text in both different spreadsheets, so in broadsheets. So, firstly, they misquoted me. Well, firstly, they didn't give me enough time to explain where the money would come from. Secondly, the Gazette really misquoted. We kind of although they reported it, they kind of poo-pooed the idea, as they would, and sort of disregarded it really. And yeah, so I was very disappointed. In fact, I've wrote a letter of complaint to both those two
Right.
organisations. I'm just waiting to hear back, because what I'd like to do is get an opportunity to at least share my vision with them.
Well, I think to be honest, it was only fair, and they were sharing. Sorry, they were sharing the hustings, weren't they? They'd actually put that on
Yes,
at
correct.
this event at the cricket club. They'd actually put that on. Um, but no, good for you. I mean, I think other people have made some phone calls as well to say, this needs to be sorted out. What did that teach you about the press then? You've alluded to that, but Mark, what did that actually teach you about the press and how they're
It's,
handling things?
it's a London narrative, everything. I mean, if that Hustings was in London, there would have been probably 150 members of the press there. But because it was in Blackpool, I think we only had two members of the press. There was nobody from anywhere really reporting on it like normally you would have. What it did is it taught me a big lesson really, that they're looking for is sound bites. And then they will misquote your sound bites to suit their narrative. It's almost like we're force fed up in the north, the London narrative. I'm sorry to say it, but we are. No wonder
Well, I
we are.
don't.
No wonder we are, because everything's there.
Right.
We're suffering in the north, and the policies that they've got there obviously are. I mean, it's killing the north off.
So when you say, so here we are, I'm giving you the chance to explain how the studio infrastructure, and we are
Yeah.
talking big acres. How would you fund it? How would you fund it?
Well, the key, just before I get into that, the key word you've used it twice is the infrastructure.
Mm,
That's the key word, and we don't have an infrastructure at all. I mean, look, if you're setting up a football, like think about football stadiums as just a way to give you a better help you understand what you need to do before you can do anything. So if you wanted, when they talked about the football league, then what they had to do is go out and put these one-off builds, these infrastructure buildings, these stadiums in place before they could have that football league. Otherwise it wouldn't have happened, would it? So infrastructure is a very important part of this. So we don't have any infrastructure at all in the north. You can discount Media City, Manchester, because that is another connection of London. And anything that goes on there, anything that is successful there, I mean, look, this morning, the one show, I think that they've gone to London. So you can discount Manchester, Media City, but there is no other infrastructure built anywhere in the north. And so that's the key thing, that we need the infrastructure building. And then when we might have a chance to be in the game. If we've got no infrastructure, we're not going to be in the game. So first of all, we need to be in the game. How are we going to find the money to do it? There's many different ways. It won't just be there's not just one way to budget something of this scale, a major film studio in Blackpool, in the north, here in Blackpool. So you would be talking your budget. You would be needing something in the region of £1 billion. It sounds like an awful lot of money, but it's not really when you look at the grand scale of things. When you look at the Department of Culture, their budget, and they have an annual budget of £40 billion, not million, billion. So their annual budget is 40 billion. And if you was to look at that over a period of 5 years, a parliamentary period, that's from my numbers. I have got the numbers, but looking at it's 400,000 million.
right.
You can hardly get your head around these numbers. So over a period of 5 years, it's 40 billion. So that's 40 billion is, from my understanding, is 400,000 million. It's mind-boggling. So you would only need to tap into 1% of that. We'd need 1 in 40. We would need to. I mean, so there's the Department of Arts and Culture. That's the first place you would go. I would go banging on the door of the minister, whoever's in charge, and I'd make more noise than anybody's ever made at his door and in his office. Also, there's the film lottery money. So these monies are set aside. It's ring fence money, and it's lottery money for films. And they pile it into small movies and big, large, massive films. Some of the big ones as well. So lottery money as well. There's no, we don't get any of that, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. But we don't get any money at all from the lottery for filmmaking. The filmmaking industry it shouldn't be called the British film industry. It should be called the London film industry, because nothing's made anywhere else, quite frankly. So then you've also, there's other budgeting mechanisms that would be available to you. When they make these movies, there's tax, they call it tax film credits, and they get 20 to 30% of their overall budget. So Britain is a fantastic place to make movies, okay, because we offer such a good deal to the movie makers, to the film companies. So it's very attractive for them to make movies in the UK. Very, very attractive because of that 20 to 30% overall monies they get for the budget on their overall budgets. So the cost of that. Then the big one as well would be private investors. So at the moment, private investors won't go anywhere where they've got hostile governments or councils or authorities. So if you made it attractive for private investors, they would be there. Okay, there's a lot of private investors willing to invest into these kind of things. It's film sets for hire. It's warehouses and sound stages for hire, basically, and that's another way you would create income as well. So,
Mark, sorry to interrupt. Can I just clarify something on this, because this is really, really important, and what you're saying is excellent, and I'm just quickly listening. So you are then referring to the media and cultural budget. So every year they've got a budget of 8 billion. If you then turn it around and go over the lifetime of a parliament, that becomes 40 billion. And quite rightly, you've broken it down percentage wise, where we say we just want X amount of that, which is,
1 in 40. I've got it. 1 in 40.
Yeah. And no,
it's not really, it's not unreasonable. And don't forget, I must say, Mark, sorry to just come in again.
Not at all.
We have been completely ripped off in the north, right? We have been ripped off, not just us in Blackpool, the southeast, the southwest, the whole of England. We've been totally ripped off. There's some ridiculous hidden policy somewhere here that is stopping the infrastructure being built outside London. I mean, it's obvious. You've only got to take a look at around the country. You have got there's 2 studios going up, one in Hertfordshire and one in Reading. And Reading is the overflow for the North London sites, and the Hertford one is the 15-minute away from Elstree and the others. So it's a big rip-off, and it's time we got our fair share up north of that budget, because they're not spending anything here. The lottery money doesn't come in because we don't have the infrastructure here. We can't make them. It's like they've got us by the short and curlies.
You used a very important word, which again is, like we've said, is infrastructure. The fact that, as you've said earlier, we've got to build these basically warehouses as sound stages. The infrastructure is there. Then what happens with that infrastructure then, Mark? What actually happens with that?
Well, once you have the infrastructure in place, you're going to have the likes of Netflix. You're going to have, Amazon. They're looking for these out of town sites, out of London sites. We'll be able to compete with London. We will be able to compete because it'll be cheaper. They built Hollywood in a desert because it was cheaper. So, we've got the space in Blackpool. We talked about the budget. It's not about the budget really. It's more about the will. It's about getting the council and the government on side and giving these filmmakers the budgets they need, the 20 to 30% reduction, making it attractive for them to come here, the tax cuts. That's what it's about. It's about welcoming, putting the welcome carpet out for these big companies and getting them into Blackpool. I mean, I think Warner, well, the Warner Brothers are in the UK, aren't they? I
Yeah.
think they've made themselves base themselves here. I mean, you've got Disney, you've got Sony, you've got Paramount, you've got Universal. They'd all be interested. They're looking. I mean, Blackpool's got a wonderful sound set already built because we've got 7 miles of promenade. We've got a tower, the piers. You know, we've got Golden Sands. We've got a seascape. So any sea movies, you could do it all here, really. And we've got the talent as well. Don't forget the talent. Blackpool's been producing talent for many, many years. And we've produced some of the best stars in this country, not just in the entertainment industry, in films and music as well. You know, so that our talent's being wasted. You've got to move to London and become one of them Greta Thunberg types to get on in the movie industry. It's terrible, really. We're exporting all of our talent, everywhere else, and we want to keep our talent here. Thank you very much. But we want something to, and not only that, we need our talent to be able to produce the movies here as well, because that also gives us a mega employment locally, massive investment into the local community. You know, the businesses all prosper. You get beautiful shops. You know, look at wherever you get these film sets, you get businesses popping up everywhere, nice shops opening up, nice hotels and boutiques, and that's what we want for Blackpool.
And then what happens is that then creates jobs, and of course, it creates investment in the area, which means we're then looking at, you need all the craft skills in there, carpenters, plasterers, electricians, and all the rest. Then that enables you to tie up with education facilities, create apprenticeships, everything. Yeah. So
well,
sorry.
this is what we're after. I mean, this is why Blackpool is something all year round.
Right. You touched on that the last time that we spoke as well, and could you just re-emphasize that in regard to the year stuff, all year round? What actually happens within the season?
We have a season that starts in April, finishes in November, and then the town closes down. It has been extended through to the Christmas for the illuminations, but the businesses in the town just basically all close. And we don't have any jobs. We don't have any prospects. The town is a ghost town. We have a lot of drug and alcohol problems and temptations for young people, and they get taken off their path by all of the temptations that are just pushed in front of them. We have got big problems in the town with people with no aspirations, and there is no community cohesion left now. Unfortunately, it's a sad thing. It's a thing of the past, and our young people are suffering. We've got a lot of problems with local employment and bad employment as well. 0-hour contract, and that people are really suffering, and especially in the winter time. So, we have a lot of people getting into crime as well in the winter, sadly. Crime does go up because people just can't afford to live. So we're talking about bringing into Blackpool something that will inspire young people in our town and give us, a chance. Does London hate us? Do they hate us so much? We should be so sorely let down in the north. I mean, I don't know. Are they sitting in glee? Are they looking and thinking, "Hey, it's just not worth it"? Them lot up there, they've got nothing to offer us. Is it because we voted to get out of Brexit? Are they all the remain? Is it the Remainers who? Are these the answers? But there's something terrible going on, and it's obvious to the people with their eyes open that there's something going on.
Well, and you've just laid that out. You've begun to describe how this would be financed and the importance of having a big infrastructure project within Blackpool. And then you've touched on the heritage of Blackpool within all the entertainment industry and all the rest.
Yeah.
Without wanting to be, I don't want to be rude, but what policies have the other parties got in this regard? What What I mean, when you were at the Hustings at the Blackpool Gazette, which they kindly hosted, you stood up and talked about aspirations. You talked about bringing this in and wanting to inspire young people. What what are the opposition parties saying? What are the Labour Party saying? What are the Conservative Party saying? What are the other candidates saying?
Well, Labour are just blaming Conservative for everything. They've not got any new policies. They've not got any new ideas. The guy who's running, I'm not going to make it personal, but there doesn't seem to be any spark. There's no oomph. There's no ideas coming out of there. And it seems like he has to just stick with the party line, and that's that. And there's no movement. It's more of the same. It's the same. It's the status quo. We know we've had 12 years of a Labour council here in Blackpool. We understand
Right.
better than anybody what happens when you get Labour in, councils. They just ruin your town. So no ideas at all from Labour. A lot of Labour people pulling me in the street. I'm getting a lot of Labour people saying, "Look, we're voting for you. We can't even vote for our own party." So there's a lot of distrust at the moment for Labour, and people are concerned if they get into government. So nothing at all really from them. But the Conservatives are just up in arms. They are in a complete mess. I felt sorry for David Jones, the guy who was sent to to the Hustings. I really did. He seemed like quite a reasonable man, but no ideas. They're just covering their backsides now. They're just looking at what they can hold on to. And, well, we've had so much trouble in our Fylde Coast. With just what's just happened with Mark Menzies. He's been kicked out. Well, he's gone now. But and then Scott Benson. We've not done too well with Conservative MPs in our area, so they are totally finished. I believe he's gone into hiding now. He's not been seen since that Hustings. So yeah.
Wow.
They're finished. They're finished locally. So what I'm looking to do is I'm asking the Tories to go out and vote for me and lend me their vote, because I'm the only hope. We can't have Labour in there. So I'm looking at the Tories to lend me their vote, help me out, get me in there. Just give me a 6 months trial. That's it. I'm not looking for, if you don't like me, get rid of me at Christmas. That's it.
I hear. Where are we at with the postal votes, Mark? Because that was always the deadline that you were aiming for, you were looking at. So the postal votes, where are we at? They have gone out, I believe.
Yeah, that's it. It's open today. So they went out over the last the day or two. I got some numbers. There's 15,000 gone out.
Oh,
So
right.
15,000, went out. So the postal voting is now open. So they will have been receiving today their postal votes back in the post. But I always get a bit nervous. This is, for me, I don't want to say that we've got a dodgy system, but I always get very nervous about the postal votes because I just don't trust it. It's open to be messed with.
Well, to be fair to you, up and down certain parts of the country, it has been messed with in regard to people have raised concern, very, very serious concerns about that. So when you are out and about and you're meeting people that are saying we're going to vote
that's
for
my
you,
favourite bit.
Right. I wonder how many of those will be voting for you on the day. I wonder, I mean, as you said, 15,000 postal votes have gone out. I suppose your prayer is that they will be voting for you. They're not going to be, what's the word, bamboozled into quickly signing it and taking it by another party. Maybe they're still thinking about this, Mark. What are your thoughts?
I think it's time to hit them hard. And that, from what I can gather, and I'm hearing it from a lot of Tories, after what happened in 2019 with Boris, they want to hurt them. They want to hurt the Tories, the people who voted for them, and I was one of them, by the way. They really want to hurt the Tories. I think we're going to see Well, we're at a tipping point, aren't we? Some people would say this is it. This is the turning point for the country. So it's going to be all down to the day. There's a lot of secret votes. There's a lot of people being shy about their votes as well. Not, I think if you remember in Brexit, there was a lot of that went on. People didn't want to say who they was going to vote for because they got a lot of grief from the other people on the opposition. So I'm hearing a lot of that as well. So there's a lot of people keeping quiet, which is very interesting, isn't it? A lot of people keeping a hush about it. So I think we're not going to know really until the night of the count. I don't think anybody really knows. Labour, there was, before I came into the running, Labour was very bold, giving out statements that they was going to win 90% chance, things like that. They've certainly piped down a little bit since I came into the fray. And from what I can gather, I'm taking votes from the Labour and from the Conservatives.
Okay, so do you think that I mean, their ground game, the Labour ground game, is always very, very good in regard to postal votes, the whole thing, door knocking or whatever.
Machine.
How
Total machine.
right? How has it been for you? Door knocking, getting a team together on that front.
We've done well. We've done really well. We had 20 people out on Saturday and Sunday. We're doing brilliant, really. People have really supported me and got behind what I'm doing. So I'm not complaining about the help we've received on the ground. I've had more volunteers than I ever thought we would have. So we're just getting out. We're getting the message out, knocking on as many doors as we can, speaking to as many people as we can, and really just breaking through the idea that who are reform, what are reform, just getting past that point of just explaining who we are, what we stand for, what are our values, and what we're all about, really. And people just really take to that very, very well, especially when we show them the contract and the costings and talk about it in common sense ways for people to understand. Some of the questions and answers have just been fantastic. People are really engaging in politics. I thought people weren't interested in politics, but they really are.
I think it's really interesting when you say people aren't engaging. Do you think that's because they've got completely and utterly browned off since 2019, and now, but there's still engagement, as you've said, because they want to teach the government a lesson? Is that a fair point?
There's a protest vote coming here, and well, we've said it before, haven't we? It's gonna be bloody. The Conservatives are going to get annihilated. Now, if we can take this seat in Blackpool, if Reform win, if I can win this seat on the 2nd, then, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, you cannot underestimate that, because although Labour really heavily favour, the bookies are heavily favouring Labour. That could change overnight if we get a win here in Blackpool South. Those bookies odds will tumble overnight, and you'll see MPs scrambling to get across to Richard Tice's office, and they'll be begging him to come over.
It's very interesting, right? It's interesting because in our first interview, you said that. You said that if you win, there'll be councillors crossing over. You even said, could win 300 seats. Amazing.
Well, that'd be. Look, that's what Blackpool can do. It can basically set the foundations for a Reform Party government in the general election. That is where we are at right now with this. It's quite exciting being at the tip of the spear.
Wow. So, Mark, how are the next 2 weeks going to be, or just under that, May the 2nd? How is this going to play out? Because you have other things going on as well, if you want to talk about that.
Yes. So I am actually this week. It's funny because obviously we're coming to the end of our campaign, and the plan was that we was going to be out every day and we had a diary set up, but unfortunately that had to change because I was called by our local court, well, it's Preston Crown Court, to be a witness in a really serious terrorist case that went on 3 years ago in Blackpool. Obviously, I can't say too much about it because I wouldn't want to affect the case in any way. But what I will say is I'm a witness in that case, and there was explosives and guns involved, and yeah, so the guy was arrested, and the police got him, thank God, and he is now facing a trial, and I've been called to be a witness in that trial, because obviously I'm one of the key witnesses, as it was me that he seemed to be targeting, and so. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to be out campaigning as I wanted to, and I've had to send colleagues to cover a couple of the hustings. One of the hustings today at the college. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that. And again, we've got a radio hustings tomorrow with BBC Lancashire Radio, and again, I won't be able to make that because I'm going to be at Preston Crown Court in this really serious terrorist trial. And the rest of the week, I'll be there as well. Hopefully, I'll be able to get away by Wednesday or Thursday, but I'm not sure how long the trial's going to go on for. I'm just set to be there for a whole week. But what I am going to do is get out of the evening times. I've got a Q&A set up at different public venues throughout the week. So I'll be racing back from Preston Crown Court to get back to Blackpool for the Q&As that I'll be having, because I want to get out there and meet as many people as I possibly can. Because what I'm finding, Mark, is when I get to meet people, they realise quickly, just by the whites of my eyes and by the passion and the honesty that I'm talking, they realise that I'm serious about this. And also about the other things that are going on in the town. Our town is suffering massively in more than one way, and people have got issues all left, right, and centre, and they just want to talk about their problems. They want somebody to listen to them. They want somebody to take their problems seriously, and that's another one, the big issue. They're not being listened to. Our people just aren't being listened to, and we need to change it. We need to make it so we are hearing our people. And that's the big thing that I'm getting out on out in the town is nobody's listening to us, Mark.
Right. And that in one sense is alluding, as you said earlier, does London hate us? Does London hate the North? Etc. You've already alluded to that. Can I ask the question? You've got this husting. Someone's going to a husting in a college. What is that? How has that come about?
So that was a hustings, local hustings. That was, I think that was put together by the college, and there was 150 students at that hustings. I was absolutely gutted I couldn't make it there, but that was arranged by the college. But I sent a colleague to discuss and talk. He works with me, Jim O'Neill, to discuss everything that I discuss. So he was a good candidate to send down to answer questions, and I hope it worked out for them. But apparently it went really well, and there was a lot of good questions, and it was really well organised as well. And the other one tomorrow on the radio, the BBC Lancashire radio hustings, that again has been well organised by a local reporter.
Well, that is excellent that's happened in the college. That's excellent, because that is then greeting young people and having a good feedback from there. Mark, what is your advice in regard to people that have got their postal vote and that they are unsure where to vote at this point in time? What would you say to them?
Do not be bullied by the Labour machine. That's what I would say. I would say hold fast, take your time, look at all of the policies, look at all of the candidates, and make a genuine decision for yourself. But I would say if you are in any way in any doubt about the two big parties, which is the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, then put your X in one of the other party places, and particularly if you want to make change, we have to make change. We have to go with the party that is really seeking after change. Now, my name will be the second one on the ballot, and I would say to you, lend me your vote. And if I don't do a good enough job, you can get rid of me by Christmas. And I think all MPs probably should have a 6-month trial, Mark. What about pushing it out right across the whole country?
Well, the other thing is that, you know, we want you to win this by-election. You then there will be a general election. You want to win that. And of course, as you've touched on the fact that if it's a protest vote, you will work hard. You will work hard over the next few months.
I've got a lot to do. I will. One thing about me, I'm very determined, and when I get when I get my teeth into something, when I get started, I get my projects off the ground. I'm well known for it. I am tenacious, and I'm a good businessman. Okay, I've made mistakes like we all have, and that's been picked up upon in recently, but it's nothing I can't live with. And what I would say is, if you give me 6 months at this, well, I'm going to go after it. I'm certainly going to go after the London, the Westminster lobby, the 150 journalists that are sat there down in Westminster looking for a story. I'll certainly be going after them. I'll be making a real nuisance out of myself with the Secretary of Culture and those ministers surrounding that, and anything to do with the money and the finance and the policies that are set for what goes on in the north. And I'm sure there's something we could have. There's such a thing as a select committee. Look what's just happened with the post office scandal, and
right.
So, I'd look to get the select committee. You've got 10 MPs then that'll be scrutinising the minister's work. We can look at all of his emails over the last 10 or 15 years. We can see, can't we, then, whether I'm right or wrong about this. And let's scrutinise their policies, and let's start asking some serious questions about why, in fact, is it that we in the north do not have any infrastructure at all, any sound or lighting warehouses, soundproof warehouses anywhere in the north besides the two. I mean, all right, Manchester, and I think there is Liverpool as well, but that'll be connected to the media city there, which is part of the they recently won, didn't they? Their city won. European city. Sorry, it's just left me. But they will have been connected to the right people at the right time to get that studio there. But we're looking at the rest of the UK. We're looking at all of the towns and cities right across the whole of England. There's the proof is there. There's no infrastructure. And why is there no infrastructure? Because there is a policy to not build anywhere outside of North or West London.
Well, that's how it seems, isn't it? Because it hasn't been done. So we allude to that by seeing the proof in the pudding. Mark, so over the next few days, as you said, you'll be door knocking. You're out. What is going to be, other than you've got this court case which you've just laid out, which will be finished by Thursday? What are the other things that you will be up to? You've described the hustings. Isn't there a rap song that's come out today? What's all that about?
That's correct. We had a local talented rapper. He's a brilliant, fantastic, talented young fella called Jay Madden, and he came and asked. He was a big supporter of reform. He's a big supporter of the work that I've been doing here in Blackpool, and he came and offered his service. He wanted to write a rap, and I thought, well, what a better way for me to, capture the attention of some young people, the different demographic. In a rap song. So I'll be honest, Mark, I'm a bit more into jazz and classical music, but rap not really my thing. But I've got to say, I really enjoyed being part of it and seeing it all put together by the talented young fella himself, the way he did it. And it's gone out online today, this evening, actually. It was released tonight at 6 o'clock. So after this interview, I'll be sitting down and watching it. Apparently, it's getting some great reviews. I know the opposition won't like it because there's a little bit of criticism in there, shall we say, for the opposition.
Right. Well, understandably, because you're then saying they haven't been doing this, and this is what we need to do. And Mark, before we go, I'd be loading this up. Would like people to share this. Would like other people to share about a previous
Yeah, share
interview
it
as
out
well,
there.
and to get the information out there. And we just ask everyone to do this. Mark,
Please,
in the last
share it out there.
Brilliant. In the last sort of minute, is there anything else that you would want to say other than fill in your postal vote for you? Is there anything else that you would like to say and point out what's going on over the next few days?
I think as a country, we have to unify. We have to have unanimity again. Although there's different sides of that. I understand there's different political spectrums, but we have to remember that we're people first. And we have a nature, and I like to think I've got a kind nature, and that I've got manners. And although I've been tested in this whole last few weeks and months in the dirty game that the politicians seem to be playing, and the activists as well that seem to go along with them, I don't know whether they would be called activists, really, in my book. I can't really say what I would call them, but it's bullying and it's abuse and it's nasty, and there's no need for it. And I think manners are missing in the world, and we should think about that. And I think that if we, good manners could solve half the problems in this world. And whether or not people are on the opposition, on the opposing side, we should all remember one thing, that we're people first. We're all people first. And, that's what I want to say. We're people. And we shouldn't be treating each other so badly, when we're all trying to do the right thing here.
Well, the other thing about your good self is that you live in the area. The Blackpool South is very much part of you.
It is.
And through Amazing Grace and the red shelter bus and other projects that you've done like that, you're very concerned about what's happening in the area, and you have a vision for the future.
We just need to pull it together. We just need to get a grip and stop, this terrible fighting that's going on. Once this election's over, we need to unify everybody. We need to get all the townsfolk into a place of unity where we're not totally against each other. We can have different opinions, fine, but let's get the job done. Let's get the things done that we need to do. And that can be cross-party. That can join the left and the right, and that can get us all working to the same thing, which is to make our town better, to give our townsfolk an opportunity, a chance, our young people, to give them a chance to be able to live a normal, happy life, just like they are doing in London.
Brilliant. Mark, I just want to thank you for joining me again. I'm going to play us out and say goodbye on the other side.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, Mark.
No, not at all. It's lovely to see you again and have this conversation. So I think your last words would be: vote Mark Butcher for reform on the 2nd of May. Sort out your postal vote that. And if anyone needs a hand with either collecting the postal vote, getting it to where it should be, is there any advice you can give them in regard to that, in regard to getting hold of you?
Use a family or friend. Use someone you trust to help you. That's what I would say. Don't use any of the political candidates at all. In fact, really, they shouldn't be handling your postal vote at all. It's illegal. And if there's not friends and family, I'm sure that Citizens Advice, or there will be people there that are non-political that are, that could help you.
Okay, brilliant. Mark, I'm going to play us out, and just thank you so much for joining me again on the Southern Report. I just ask everyone to click subscribe, and when share our previous video, that would be good. All of those hits help Mark and me. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us. See you soon.
Cheers.